What's the difference between Peter Molyneux and Ed the Duck? Nothing. When both speak, all I hear is cracking. Ed the Duck was a puppet that was a co-presenter on children's BBC in the UK in the early 90s, initially with Andy Crane and later with Andy Peters. He essentially was a duck that quacked, operated by someone under the desk. That's it. Although incredibly popular at the time, so popular in fact that Zeppelin licensed Ed the Duck to appear in a computer game. It's put out at full price on their Impulse label, $24.99 if you bought this on the 16 bits. And we're going to start off on the Commodore 64. It's a 1990 game. Jolly tune on the menu screen here. And what we have to do is collect 20 stars on each level. And yes, you're already thinking Rainbow Islands. So Ed is the character in the middle there with the mohawk, green mohawk. Although on TV he didn't initially have that mohawk. It was someone from Blue Peter, I think, found a green mohawk and sewed it on him. So what you have to do is transverse the level and collect all the stars. You can see Ed's nemesis there just appeared on the right hand side, Wilson the butler, who was a gloved white hand who comes to get Ed. Ed throws snowballs which stun the enemies, but they don't die. And all the sprites on the C64 version are lovely high-res sprites, so Ed and all the enemies are very detailed. No music during the game itself, just sound effects. And the first thing you notice really is it's a Rainbow Islands clone. And the thing that strikes you is it's a bit unfortunate that while it's a Rainbow Islands clone, it doesn't have any of the controllability that Rainbow Islands does. The game feels slightly difficult to control. In some of the versions, Ed is steerable when he's in the air, and you get a limited amount of steering when you drop down as well. If you miss a star going up, it's quite difficult to drop back down again because there's very little steering ability compared to the jumping up, unlike Rainbow Islands where you get a bit more leeway. So there's one star there. As you go through the levels, there's 3 sets of levels, each of which has 3 stages. And as you go through the difficulty level increases, which basically means the snowballs stun the baddies for less time. So, and you've got no indication when the baddies are about to become active again. They don't flash a different colour, there's no countdown, they just suddenly come back to life, which makes it incredibly difficult alongside those control problems. So we finished the first level here. So this is level 2. More of the same thing. You've got 3 stages basically to the first set of levels, then you go on to a different scenario, and then 3 more levels, then the final scenario. It's just rather fiddly. It looks nice. This got fairly good reviews from the 8-bit magazines at the time, it has to be said. They seem to like it, but I'm surprised they didn't draw the comparison with Rainbow Islands. This is level 4. So different scenario now, black background. Again, the graphics look really nice. This is really colourful for a C64 game. Nice, bright, colourful colours. Really nice. It's just this control issue and just... As I was saying, this was a full-price game. And if this had been a budget game, you'd been falling over yourself to buy this. But as a full-price £10 game, it feels a little bit lacking. Especially when you can go and buy Rainbow Islands. And if you've got Rainbow Islands already, and you like that kind of game, why are you buying this? I am playing with an Infinite Lives cheat here. It's difficult to see above you too far as well. And it comes back to this thing about only being able to stun the enemies for a limited amount of time. And having no indication of how long it is before they come back to life. This is what the final level looks like. It looks very like level 1. It's a Toyland scenario. Ed is basically having to work his way through the different departments at BBC Television Centre to get to present Children's BBC or something like that. There's a weather department, there's the children's department, and we're moving on to the Amstrad CPC version. Horrific title screen here. ported over from the Spectrum. Really peculiar choices of colours. Not playing with a cheat as such, although I'm going to use a level skip to get forwards to show some of the later levels if we need to. Weird looking Ed the Duck here, kind of cross between Bart Simpson and goodness knows what on the title screen. Orville? I don't know. What's the main sprite there? Was he wearing a nappy? No music again. The graphics as stills again look quite nice, especially those big bee characters. If that's a bee flying around, I don't know. There's a different amount of baddies on the screen compared to the C64 here. And the scrolling is fairly horrific. And it feels very slow as well compared to Rainbow Islands on the CPC. And I'm going to keep on making this comparison because I think it's blatantly obvious the programmers of this have seen Rainbow Islands and decided to make a clone. Split mode thing going on there. The status screen at the bottom there is in medium resolution and the main player area is in low resolution. Still a fairly horrific choice of colours on that status screen. Just fiddly. Just really fiddly. More fiddly than the C64 version. Right, stunned him. How long do I get? There's Wilson's hand there. For those that remember Wilson, the butler on Children's BBC, he used to be Ed the Duck's nemesis. And it was some other poor so-and-so out of vision whose hand used to wander on and bother Ed and things like that. On to level 4. Again, nice and colourful. Not much in way of animation. It's fairly jerky. All the criticism from the C64 version applied to the CPC version. It's a gameplay fault at the end of the day. Yes, the graphics are more jerky here on the Amstrad. It's slower, but the same issues apply. So I'm going to skip forward to the Amiga version. We're going to come back to the Spectrum version last of all. The 16-bit magazines weren't so kind to the game. Amiga Power were especially outspoken about Ed the Duck. Interestingly, on the CPC's title screen, Impulse is spelt with an S, and on the Amiga here it's spelt with a Z. I think Z is the correct way, so the programmers didn't get that right on the title screen of the Amstrad version. Well, Ed's best friend was Andy Peters, or Andy Crane if it was earlier on. Off we go. On the Amiga, we get some jolly music here. Oh, no. Faster and more controllable. The layouts are slightly different, presumably to take into account the Amiga's larger screen resolution. You have to collect all 20 stars to get onto the next level, so if you miss them, you have to drop back down again on the level, which it can be tricky. Some of the versions you can steer when you jump, some of them you can't. It's very inconsistent. Oh, are these going to flash when they come back to life, or are they suddenly going to come back to life? No, they just suddenly come back. You see, a simple thing like them flashing to give you a 2-second warning before the baddies come back to life. And the snowballs have such a limited range as well, and you have to line yourself up with the baddie precisely. There's Wilson's hand. Smaller on the Amiga version than the 8-bit versions. It's clearly aimed at kids with all these teddy bears and things, but again, I think kids are more discerning than this. As a budget game, and this game was pretty quickly re-released onto budget by Zeppelin. As a budget game, if someone like Codemasters had put this out as an original game at $3.99 and $7.99, you'd go, yeah, it's okay. It's a game that's worth about 60%, you know, fairly solid. A bit like the CJ games, really, where there's shortcomings. But, you know, it's still a fairly decent game and worth a go. And it's all fairly jolly, but $24.99 for this. I say it so often, but it's one of those games that could just benefit from a bit more play testing, really. Get some feedback on the game. Because most of the problems are fairly simple and can be resolved fairly easily. On to level 4. Again, there's good consistency between the level looks between the versions. The colour scheme here on the Amiga matches the C64 and CPC versions that we've seen. I wonder what we'd make of this in a world where Rainbow Islands doesn't exist. Though you'd still find it incredibly fiddly and rather unsatisfactory. I guess the problem is, really, the amount of effort that's gone into this is about the amount of effort Zeppelin would have put into a budget game, and because the license has cost a lot of money, they've put it out at full price, compared to Alternative, who were doing a similar thing with licenses at the same stage, but were putting games out at a kind of mid-price point, if I think about £15 for things like Doctor Who Dalek Attack, rather than going for the full price thing. Over to the Spectrum, and I can't find a 128K version of this game, which indicates to me that all the versions are 48K only. It's very similar to the CPC version, except with monochromatic graphics. Same sprites, same size sprites for those big bees and fish things. And we're on to... It's just as fiddly here. I'm trying to think who'd want to spend £25 on 16-bit or $10.99 on 8-bits on this game. Really, when there's so much other stuff around that you could play. Not even games like it. It just feels rather deficient, but the magazines at the time seemed very kind to it. Especially Commodore format. I thought they might, and Amstrad Action as well. Admittedly, Adam Peters was mad keen on Ed the Duck, and even had him co-host the letters page from time to time, but there's so much you could do with the character, really. There's not even any cracking in the game, and let's face it, all Ed did was crack. So, yeah. So there is the elephant in the room, and it's Rainbow Islands. So, given how long it takes to complete this level 1 here on the Spectrum, and it seems to take forever, about 5 minutes, it's so slow and fiddly, I thought we'd compare it to Rainbow Islands on the Specky, just to see how quickly I can power through level 1. This is a full price game. It costs exactly the same as Ed the Duck, and that is important. Off we go to Insect Island. I always press pause when I start to play this, because I prefer to play it on keyboard, and I always press the wrong key. So you get the beautiful Rainbow Islands music, these wonderful graphics, so colourful, yeah, loads of colour clash, but who cares? I'm not trying to speedrun this, I'm just trying to play this as a normal level, just to show the difference. So when you hit baddies, they die, so you're not waiting around for them to suddenly reappear and come back to life. Lots of power-ups. Not onto 2 rainbows yet, but get a few more of those diamonds I will be. Oh, I've missed one down there. Just over a minute to complete level 1. Yeah, it's... As soon as you come to play Rainbow Islands, the problem is very, very apparent. Ed the Duck was a popular character in the early 90s among kids, and Zeppelin have decided to cash in on that and produce a game around him. And they've also decided to cash in on the popularity of Rainbow Islands. The problem is that if you are going to borrow from a game as good as Rainbow Islands, you'd better get it right. And Ed the Duck is fiddly and slow compared to the slick speed of Rainbow Islands. The problems are the same among all the versions. The Commodore 64 version is probably the best. It has very nice graphics. I really do like those colourful graphics on the C64. It just proves games can be colourful and have high-res sprites on the 64. It's just a shame the gameplay doesn't in any way live up to those graphics. On the Amstrad, it's blocky, it's slow, it's not generally very good. I think Amstrad Action probably had a bit of a blind spot for this game. Don't really like it. On the Amiga, yeah, he got a slating from the Amiga press, and quite rightly. I've not looked at the ST version here. It's pretty much the same as the Amiga version. Frankly, I've paid so much of this game, my head is spinning. I can't stand any more of it. And on the Specky, well, if it turns out there is only a 48K version, that is incredibly lazy of Zeppelin to do that. No 1 to 8K version. I could be wrong there. When the game was re-released on budget, I think it would have been a fairly good bet on the 64, but as a full price game, it's pretty poor, and the only version I'd really bother with, and that would be on the budget version, would be the 64 version.